Smoke crawls like a living thing across the ruins of Austenedel, hissing where it meets molten silver that runs in the streets like blood. Orcs howl in the red glare of burning forges, their shadows thrown long against shattered walls. Above them all, upon the highest balcony of the house of the Myrdain, Celebrimbor stands alone, his hand clenched around a small, perfect circle of gold that burns his palm and whispers in his mind. Below, the Dark Lord calls out his name, and the city holds its breath as the elf does not answer. If you enjoy these deep dives into alternate Middle-earth, remember to like and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Tell me in the comments which realm you would stand with in this timeline: proud Gondor, hidden Imladris, or the shadowed forges of Eregion itself. The sky over Eregion glows the color of a dying forge, heavy with ash and the stink of burning cedar beams. The doors of the house of the Myrdain are broken, the great hinges twisted, the mithril inlay blackened. Inside, in the shattered council chamber, where once the greatest crafts of the Second Age were planned in light and song, Celebrimbor moves as if through a dream. He is spattered with blood that is not his own. The leather of his gloves is torn where he has worked the locks of secret vaults with desperate hands. His eyes, once bright with the joy of making, are fevered now, fixed upon the single ring he holds. Outside, Sauron's army encircles the city, a dark tide bristling with spears and siege engines. Trolls batter the outer gates. Orcs drag screaming captives to the squares. Smoke rises in pillars. The ground shakes with distant impacts. Sauron stands upon a black mound of corpses and rubble, his fair form still unmasked. Though his eyes burn with unveiled fire, his voice rolls over the city like thunder. Celebrimbor, dearest friend, wise master, bring forth what you have stolen from me, and I will be merciful. His words are sweet, but the air around him grows colder as he speaks. Celebrimbor hears him faintly, as if from the end of a long tunnel. The ring in his hand is heavier than gold. It drags at his thoughts. It hums with a will that is not his. He remembers the moment of revelation, days before, when the shadow fell upon his mind and he saw, with sudden horror, the true nature of Anatar, Lord of Gifts. He remembers the swift, frantic forging of the three in defiance, hidden from the Dark Lord's eye. He remembers the distant shudder in the earth, the tremor in the air, when Sauron put on his own ring in Orodruin and sought to claim them all. He remembers, too, how he tore the three from his hand and from the hands of his kin, how he hid them, how he refused that call. He should have destroyed the one when he took it. He knows this. He tells himself this. He cannot do it. The ring sings to him of patterns unmade, of secrets half glimpsed, of designs that could turn even this ruin into a beginning. It shows him a lattice of power that runs under Middle-earth like veins of ore, waiting to be hammered into shape. It shows him Sauron's mind, vast and terrible, but flawed, incomplete. It shows him the possibility of seizing that fire and bending it to a purer purpose. You have outstripped him, the whisper says, and the whisper is his own voice, only clearer. You saw the flaw in his gift. You made the three that are beyond his grasp. The one is but another work of craft. Would you let such a masterpiece be wasted? The balcony trembles as a stone tower collapses nearby. Celebrimbor staggers, clutching the rail with one hand, the ring with the other. He looks down. Below, in the square, the last of the Gwathi Myrdain are being dragged before Sauron. Some fight, some weep. Some stare up at the balcony with hollow eyes, as if already dead. Sauron raises his hands. "Bring me a lord," he says. Alive, a knot of Uruks begins to push toward the tower. Celebrimbor thinks of Gil-galad far away upon the coasts of Lindon, of Elrond who counseled caution, of Galadriel's stern, searching gaze. He sees, in memory, the disdain in some of their eyes when he spoke of Anatar's teachings, of the wonders they would make together. He sees in terrible clarity what will happen if he fails now. Sauron will take the one again. The three will fall under his dominion, and through them, Lindon, Lothlorien, and all the hidden havens of the Eldar. The dwarves will be broken. Men will be enslaved. Middle-earth will be a furnace that never cools. If he must be overthrown, the whisper says, then someone must wield the fire that can burn him. Celebrimbor laughs once, a short, harsh sound that startles even himself. "You are a tool," he says aloud to the ring, his voice raw. "You are a hammer. You will strike as I command, or you will break." He slides the one ring onto his finger. The world stops. For a heartbeat, there is only silence, perfect and absolute, like the pause before a hammer falls upon an anvil. Then sight explodes. He sees the city, not with his eyes, but with 1,000 points of perception. He is the wind curling through alleyways, bearing the scent of blood and ash. He is the heat in the stones. He is the iron in the orcs' blades, the tension in bowstrings, the flicker of fear in mortal hearts. He sees Sauron, not as the fair silver-tongued Anatar, but as a tower of will wrapped in flesh, a furnace of rage and pride. He sees the chain of command that runs from Sauron's mind through the One Ring and out into the lesser rings, into the very land itself. And he sees to his astonishment that the chain now runs through him. Sauron feels it too. His head snaps up. His eyes lock on the balcony. For the first time since he came in fair guise among the elves, his mask slips completely. "Impossible," he whispers. Celebrimbor smiles, and there is no joy in it. "You taught me well," he says, though no sound leaves his lips. The words travel along the invisible bond between them, a thought that is also a blow. The shock of it staggers Sauron. Around him, orcs falter, clutching at their helmets as if struck by a sudden ringing in their ears. Trolls moan and sway. The siege engines creak to a halt. Celebrimbor feels Sauron's will surge in answer, a tidal wave of black fire. It crashes against him, seeking to drown, to devour, to subsume. The ring on his hand burns like molten metal. He screams, but he does not remove it. Instead, he reaches for the three. They are far away already, borne out of the city by swift messengers hidden in cloaks and saddlebags. One flees north and west toward Lindon. One turns south, then east, following a road that will bend toward Lorien. One rides beside a young herald with dark hair and grave eyes, not yet knowing the weight he bears. Celebrimbor does not touch them as Sauron would. He does not seek to dominate. He seeks to harmonize, to tune. He is a smith. He knows how to make things fit. The three flare in his awareness like stars. For an instant, the pain lessens. He feels cool water, starlight on green leaves, the music of the sea. He feels resistance, too, a recoil, as if the rings themselves flinch from the dark presence that now surrounds him. Trust, he thinks, and he pours into that thought every memory of clear days in Eregion, of laughter in the forges, of Anatar's early teachings when they still seemed pure, of the pride and love that went into the making of the three. The resistance softens, power flows. It is nothing like what Sauron intended. The chain he forged to bind now runs both ways. The three do not submit, but they link. They become points of balance in a great shuddering structure of force. Celebrimbor plants his will like a wedge in the heart of the One. "No," Sauron says aloud this time. The word shakes the stones. Too late. The bond that once ran from Dark Lord to Master Ring snaps. Not entirely, not cleanly, but enough that Sauron staggers as if struck in the chest. He gasps, his hand flying to his own finger, where his ring now feels strangely distant, as if seen through smoke. Around him, the orcs howl in confusion. Some drop their weapons. Some turn on one another. Trolls sink to their knees, clutching their heads. Celebrimbor sways on the balcony, his vision swimming. Blood runs from his nose. His hand is fused to the ring. He feels as if he has thrust his arm into the heart of a star. Below, in the square, one of his apprentices, a young elf named Merwin, sees him and cries out, "Lord Celebrimbor, the gates are failing." He looks down at her. She is spattered with soot, her hair singed, her eyes wide and terrified. Behind her, a group of survivors huddle, some wounded, some clutching sacks of tools and half-finished works of art. He sees, in that instant, what he has bought with his agony. Time. Not victory, not yet. But a pause, a fracture in Sauron's assault. "Get them out," he rasps, though his voice carries only a little way. He shapes the thought instead, sends it along the newly woven web of power toward the three, toward the minds that will soon bear. Them, flee, live. Remember, Sauron recovers quickly. He is ancient and terrible, and rage now steels his resolve. "You think to take my work from me?" he snarls, lifting his hand. "You think to master what I have wrought?" His will slams into Celebrimbor again, a hammer blow that drives the elf to his knees. The balcony cracks. The tower groans. Celebrimbor's vision narrows to a tunnel of red and black. He tastes iron. He feels the bones of his fingers creak. He also feels something else. Beyond the city, beyond Sauron's encircling host, the land itself shifts. A line of force runs eastward, through the hills, under the Redhorn Pass, down into the deep places of Khazad-dûm. It runs westward, through the plains, along the Serannon and the Glanduin, toward the sea. It runs north, toward a hidden valley that is not yet Imladris. It runs south, toward the Golden Wood. The One Ring is not only a tool of domination, it is a key to the foundations of Arda. Celebrimbor's mind, trained in the subtle arts of ring lore, sees the pattern. He sees how Sauron meant to use it to pour his will into every stone and stream. He also sees how that same lattice could be turned not to enslave, but to shape. He could make Eregion into a fortress that cannot fall. He could make Osten Edhil into a great engine of power, drawing upon all the hidden strengths of the land. He could, in time, challenge Sauron not only as a rival will, but as a rival power. The thought is madness. It is also the only way he sees to keep the One from returning to its maker. He rises, slowly, fighting against the weight of Sauron's will. Anatar, he thinks, and the name is like a knife twisted in the Dark Lord's mind. "You came to me to learn. You have taught me much. Now I will teach you what it is to lose." Then, aloud, for the last time as a free elf, he speaks words that were never meant to be spoken with the One Ring on a hand not its maker's. "By fire and by form, by name and by number, I bind this work to mine." A shock wave ripples out from the balcony. The air shimmers. The flames that lick at the nearby roofs bend, drawn inward, then outward, then upward in spiraling columns. The very light seems to thicken, taking on a faint golden hue. Sauron cries out. His own ring flares, its inscription blazing. For a moment, his fair form flickers, revealing hints of the dark majesty beneath, a silhouette of iron and shadow. The orcs nearest him fall dead, their bodies smoking, their crude armor warping as if half melted. In Khazad-dûm, deep under the mountain, dwarven smiths pause as their anvils ring once, unstruck, a clear, cold tone that makes their beards bristle. In Linden, Gil-galad looks up from council as a chill passes through him, as if a distant wind had blown out a candle and relit it with a different flame. In Lorien, Galadriel, watching the road from her talon, feels a pressure upon her mind, a hand not Sauron's, but akin to it, reaching not to grasp, but to touch. In a small camp by a river, Elrond half-elven, still young, by elven reckoning, stumbles as his horse shies, and the hidden ring in his baggage pulses once like a heartbeat. The world tilts. The bond between Sauron and the One twists, frays, and then, with a wrench that tears a silent scream from both, it reweaves, not severed, shared. For the first time since the forging of the Master Ring, Sauron is not its sole master. Celebrimbor collapses. He does not fall from the balcony. The stone itself rises slightly, cradling him, as if the tower has become aware of its maker's peril. The ring on his hand glows, its inscription now visible even in the daylight, letters of fire that seem to shift between the black speech and the flowing script of the Eldar. Below, the battle resumes with renewed fury. Sauron, shaking with rage and a flicker of something like fear, points at the tower. "Bring him to me," he snarls. "Bring me his hand." The orcs obey, though many still move sluggishly, as if through water. The trolls roar and lumber forward, their eyes rolling. Merwin and the last defenders of the House of the Myrdain form a line at the base of the tower stairs. "Fall back," one of the older smiths urges her. "We must get the apprentices out. The Lord is lost." Merwin looks up at the balcony, at the still figure wreathed in faint light. "He is not lost," she says, though her voice trembles. "He is working." She draws her sword. The clash at the tower base is brutal and brief. Elven blades flash. Orcs fall screaming. A troll crashes into the stair, cracking it, sending stone chips flying. Merwin ducks under a clumsy swing and drives her sword into the troll's knee. It bellows and falls, crushing two of its own. One by one, the defenders are dragged down. Merwin is among the last. And Uruk seizes her by the hair and slams her against the wall. Her vision goes white. As darkness closes in, she looks up once more. On the balcony, Celebrimbor stirs. His eyes open. They are not as they were. They blaze with a light that is not wholly his own, a mingling of elven clarity and something harder, hotter, more pitiless. He raises his hand. He does not speak. He does not need to. The One Ring flares. For a moment, every metal object in the square sings. Swords quiver, helmets ring, armor plates hum. Then, with a scream of stressed matter, the orcs' weapons soften, droop, and run like wax in the sun. Trolls clutch at their breastplates as the iron heats, searing their flesh. They howl and tear them off, leaving themselves bare to elven arrows. The defenders stare, stunned. Merwin, half conscious, feels the Uruk holding her convulse. His blade, raised to finish her, liquefies in his grip, burning his hand. He shrieks and releases her. She falls, rolls, and scrambles toward the shadow of the tower as molten iron spatters the stones around her. Sauron watches, his face a mask of cold fury. "Enough," he says. He reaches along the bond, along the chain that now has two masters, and he pulls. Celebrimbor gasps. The power that he has just unleashed is not his alone. It runs through the same channels Sauron once fully controlled. Now, as the Dark Lord asserts his claim, the force rebounds. The tower shudders. Cracks race up its sides. Celebrimbor feels his own work turning against him. He understands in that instant that he cannot hold this balance for long. He is an elf, mighty among its kind, but he is not a Maya. Sauron's native strength dwarfs his. He also understands that he does not need to hold it forever, only long enough. He casts his mind outward again, following the lines of the three. He finds, with a rush of relief, that they are beyond the city, riding hard, slipping through gaps in Sauron's encirclement, where orcs now mill in confusion, leaderless, their weapons half melted. He brushes them once more with his thought. Do not return, he sends. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, do not come back for me. Go to Gil-galad. Go to Galadriel. Tell them what I have done. Tell them to use what I have given them. The one ring that will be Vilya pulses in answer, a note of grief and fierce resolve. Elrond, feeling it, reins in his horse, gasping, Lord Celebrimbor, he whispers. There is no reply. The connection fades. Back in the square, Sauron strides toward the tower. Your tricks end here, he says, his voice carrying easily over the chaos. You cannot match me, Celebrimbor. Give me what is mine, and I may yet make your torment swift. Celebrimbor leans against the balcony rail, his body trembling. Smoke curls around him. His hair is singed. His once fine robes are scorched and torn. He looks down at Sauron. You are wrong, he says quietly. His voice is hoarse, but it carries. Borne on a wind that has begun to circle the tower, I can match you for a time, and that is all that is needed. He closes his eyes. He does something that no elf has ever done, and perhaps no Maya has dared. He does not seek to dominate the One Ring. He seeks to merge with it. The ring was forged to contain Sauron's essence, his native power, his malice, and his will. It is, in a sense, a vessel. Celebrimbor, master of such vessels, now pours himself into it, not his soul entire. He is no fool. He knows that to give himself wholly would be to become a shadow bound to gold. But he sends a part of himself, a shard of his mind, his craft, his memory, his love of making, into the molten heart of the ring. It screams. Sauron screams with it. The world tilts again. For a moment, the sky over Eregion darkens as if an eclipse has passed. The sun's light bends, drawn toward the tower. When it clears, nothing has visibly changed, yet everything is different. Sauron staggers, clutching at his chest. He feels a foreign presence in the one now, something that is not his, something that resists, that twists his commands, that dampens his malice. He tries to hurl a bolt of searing fire at the tower. The power gathers, but as it passes through the ring, it shifts. The fire emerges not as a lance of destruction, but as a dome of heat that hardens the crumbling stone, fusing cracks, strengthening the tower instead of shattering it. Celebrimbor gasps as the wave of energy passes through him. He feels his body knit where it was failing. He feels his heart steady. He feels, too, a thread of himself sink deeper into the ring, coiling there, entwining with Sauron's own essence. They are bound now not only by the chain of command, but by shared inhabitation. Get out! Sauron snarls inwardly, hurling his will at the intruder. Celebrimbor does not answer in words. He answers in form. He reshapes, infinitesimally, the pathways of power within the ring. He closes some, opens others. He does not have the strength to seize control, but he can interfere, redirect, twist. It is like trying to steer a mountain with a chisel. He is a master of chisels. Sauron's next attempt to crush the defenders of the tower results in a sudden, localized quake that opens a fissure under his own siege engines, swallowing them. He snarls aloud. his composure fraying. "Very well," he says, looking up at the balcony where Celebrimbor now stands straight, his eyes still burning. "If I cannot take you whole, I will take what I can." He gestures. Orcs surge forward, some with weapons of bone and stone now scavenged in haste, others with claws and teeth. The defenders at the base of the tower are almost spent. Merwin, bleeding from a dozen wounds, leans against the wall, her sword tip dragging. She hears a voice in her mind, calm and clear. "Up!" She looks up. The tower steps, cracked and half-blocked by rubble, shift. Stones grind. A narrow ramp forms, leading upward. Merwin stares, then laughs, a wild, incredulous sound. "Thank you, my lord," she whispers, and she runs. Behind her, a handful of survivors follow. The tower opens to receive them. Sauron watches, his jaw clenched. "Hide your whelps in your lair," he says softly. "It will be their tomb." He raises his hand one more time, calling upon the full might of his native power, forcing it through the resistant conduit of the ring. Celebrimbor braces. The impact is like nothing he has yet endured. The tower screams. Stone flows like water. The balcony buckles. Merwin, halfway up the ramp, is thrown against the wall. She slides, fingers scrabbling for purchase. Celebrimbor feels his own bones crack. He tastes blood again, but he is no longer only in his body. He is in the walls. He is in the floor. He is in the very design of the tower, which he himself planned and oversaw. He shifts the force. The tower does not shatter outward. It implodes inward, folding like a closing fist around its heart. From outside, it looks like collapse, a slow, grinding crumple that sends up a great cloud of dust. From within, it is something else. The rooms twist, the stairs curl, the spaces between stones stretch. For a moment, there is a sense of falling sideways, then silence. When the dust clears, where once the proud tower of the House of the Myrdaean stood, there is a squat, jagged mound of fused stone, like a cooled eruption of lava. Sauron narrows his eyes. He feels through the ring that Celebrimbor still lives. He feels that the shard of the elf in the one has not diminished. He feels, too, that the structure he just crushed is not entirely what it seems. He approaches. The orcs part before him, cowed by his fury. He lays his hand upon the blackened stone. It is warm. It is, in a subtle way, resisting him. "Clever," he says softly. "You would make your tomb a fortress. You would hide your knowledge in a knot of stone and spell. You would deny me my prize." He closes his eyes. He pushes. Deep within the fused heart of the tower, in a cramped chamber that did not exist before the collapse, Merwin and a few others huddle around Celebrimbor's still form. The air is hot and thin. The stone glows faintly with internal heat. Merwin touches her lord's face. His skin is burning, but he breathes. His hand is still clenched around the ring. "Lord," she whispers, "can you hear me?" His eyes open. For a moment, they are as she remembers, blue and bright, full of keen intelligence and a spark of humor. "Merwin," he says. Then they flare gold, and his expression hardens. "He is here," he says, and his voice is layered, his own and something deeper. "He will not be denied. Listen to me." The others lean in. "Eregion will fall," Celebrimbor says. "Austin Edhill is already lost. But our work is not. The knowledge of ring lore, of power and form, is not only in my mind, it is in the stones, in the forges, in the patterns we have carved into this land. He will seek it. He must not have it." Merwin swallows. "How can we stop him?" she asks. She cannot find a word that fits. Celebrimbor smiles grimly. "We will not stop him," he says. "We will mislead him." He raises his hand. The ring flares. Above, Sauron feels a sudden shift. The mound of stone under his hand pulses once like a heartbeat, then it begins to open, not outward as a flower, but inward as if a mouth were yawning. Sauron steps back, wary. A crack appears, widening slowly, revealing a narrow passage that slopes down into the earth. From within, a faint light glows. Sauron considers. He knows a trap when he sees one. He also knows that he cannot leave this mystery unresolved. Celebrimbor has done something unprecedented with his ring. The elf has taken a sliver of power that was never meant to be shared. If that sliver is allowed to persist, it will be a constant thorn in his side, an unpredictable factor in his designs. He must go in. He gestures to a group of orcs. "Down!" he commands. They hesitate, sniffing at the hot air that rises from the crack. He lets a hint of his true self show. His shadow lengthens. His eyes blaze. They scramble to obey. One by one, they disappear into the dark. He waits. He hears their footsteps, their muttered curses, the clank of armor, then silence, then a scream. It is cut off abruptly. Sauron smiles thinly. "Very well, Celebrimbor," he murmurs. "We will play your game." He steps into the crack. The passage is narrow, forcing him to stoop. The walls are smooth, fused and faintly luminous, veined with threads of gold and silver that pulse like slow lightning. The air is hot and dry, smelling of stone and something else, something like old metal and new snow. He feels the ring on his hand tug, as if drawn forward. He follows. The passage twists and turns, descending in a spiral that feels tighter than it should be. Space itself seems warped. He passes the bodies of the orcs he sent ahead. They are not torn or burned. They are simply still, their eyes wide and glassy, their mouths open in silent surprise. He reaches out with his will, seeking the shard of Celebrimbor in the ring. He finds it. It is ahead of him in the heart of this strange structure. It is waiting. At last, the passage opens into a chamber. It is small, barely larger than a forge room, its ceiling low, its walls lined with shelves of fused stone upon which rest strange, half-melted tools, twisted rings, and lumps of unformed metal that glimmer with inner light. In the center of the room, upon a pedestal of blackened rock, lies Celebrimbor. His body is broken, his limbs at odd angles, his chest barely rising. His hand, however, is still clenched around the one ring, which glows with a steady, baleful light. Around him, a handful of elves kneel, their faces turned toward Sauron as he enters. Merwin is among them. She looks up at the Dark Lord. Her eyes are clear. "Welcome, Anatar," she says. "The name is a knife." Sauron's gaze flicks to Celebrimbor. "You have done well," he says softly. "You have made something new. You have taken what is mine and shaped it. That is worthy of respect, and for that I will not waste you." He raises his hand. The orcs behind him surge forward. The elves do not resist. They are dragged aside, pinned, their arms twisted behind them. Sauron steps to the pedestal. He looks down at Celebrimbor. "Give it to me," he says. Celebrimbor's lips twitch. "No," he whispers. Sauron smiles. "You cannot keep it," he says. "You are dying. Even with the ring, your flesh is failing. When you are gone, your little shard will be swallowed by mine. This is inevitable. You have only delayed the end." Celebrimbor's eyes open. They blaze. "Delay," he says, "is all that stands between craft and ruin, between raw ore and a blade, between your victory and your fall." He tightens his grip. Sauron sighs. He reaches down and takes Celebrimbor's hand in his. The contact is electric. Power surges. For a moment, the chamber is filled with white light. The elves cry out. Merwin feels her mind brush against something vast and terrible and bright, a clash of wills that shakes her to her core. Sauron and Celebrimbor are no longer speaking with voices. They are locked in a struggle of essence, of pattern and purpose. The ring is the battleground. Sauron presses, seeking to reclaim full dominion. He pours his malice, his cunning, his sheer weight of being into the golden circle. Celebrimbor yields, then resists, then yields again, always twisting, always redirecting, never meeting force with force, but shaping, shaping, shaping. He cannot win. He knows this. But he can leave a mark. He can carve a flaw. He can build a cage within the cage. Sauron feels something slip. He snarls, redoubling his effort. The light flares, then dims. When it clears, Celebrimbor's body is limp. His hand falls open. The one ring lies upon the stone, still glowing, but its light is different now, tinged with a faint, cold blue. Sauron stares at it. He feels strange. He feels stronger, yes. The shard of Celebrimbor that he has consumed adds a certain clarity to his perception of patterns, a deeper understanding of the subtle art of making. He sees, in a flash, 100 new designs, 1,000 possible uses for his ring. He also feels less free. Something in the structure of the ring has changed. There are now channels he cannot fully close, pathways he cannot fully erase without unmaking the ring itself. There are resonances with the three that he did not intend, feedback loops that will allow their bearers to resist him more than he had planned. He has reclaimed his work. He has also been altered by it. He looks down at Celebrimbor's body. Clever, he says again, but there is no admiration in his tone now, only cold hatred. You have bought your people a reprieve. You have not saved them. He turns to Merwin. You will tell me everything, he says, every secret of your craft, every design, every flaw you have hidden in my gift. You will tell me, or I will find new uses for your flesh. Merwin meets his gaze. She feels the weight of his will pressing upon her, seeking to break her, to bend her. She feels, too, a faint echo of Celebrimbor's mind, still lingering in the ring, like the memory of a hand on a hammer. She smiles, though her lips tremble. We have already told you everything you will ever know, she says softly. Sauron's eyes narrow. He gestures. The orcs drag the elves away. The chamber darkens. Above, the city burns. Eregion falls. The plains around Ostened Hill are a charnel field. Smoke hangs low for days, then weeks, then months, staining the sunsets a bloody red. The Serannon runs black with ash and rust. The once bright roads are churned to mud and bone fragments. Those who escape carry with them tales of horror and wonder. They speak of Celebrimbor upon the balcony, wreathed in light, turning the Dark Lord's own fire against him. They speak of weapons melting like wax, of stone that moved like water, of a tower that folded in upon itself and swallowed its defenders. They speak of a sense, in the midst of terror, that something vast and new was being born. They carry these tales to Lindon, to Lorien, to Khazad-dûm, to the scattered refuges of men. In Lindon, Gil-galad listens in silence. Elrond kneels before him, Vilya in his hands, his face pale. He told me not to return, Elrond says. He said to use what he had given us. He said, his voice breaks. Gil-galad takes the ring. It is cool to the touch, its sapphire deep and clear. He feels, as his fingers close around it, a faint echo of the shock that shook the world when the One's bond shifted. He feels the line that runs from this ring through the web of power and into the heart of Eregion. It is no longer a chain. It is a thread in a tapestry. Celebrimbor has bound himself to Sauron's work, Gil-galad says slowly. He has made himself a counterweight. As long as he As long as what remains of him endures, the Dark Lord will not be as free as he wished. Galadriel, standing nearby, her eyes distant, nods. He has given us a chance, she says, a narrow one. The three are not under Sauron's dominion as he intended. They are linked, but they are not his. We may use them to heal, to preserve, to hide. We may build havens that his eye cannot easily pierce. Elrond looks up. At what cost? He asks. Galadriel's gaze turns east, toward the smoke still staining the horizon. His own, she says, in Khazad-dûm, Narvi, old friend of Celebrimbor, stands at the west gate and looks out upon the distant pall. He fingers a small ring of his own making, a simple band of steel engraved with runes of friendship. You stubborn elf, he mutters. You had to outdo even a Dark Lord, did you not? He feels faintly a tremor in the stone under his feet, as if some deep foundation has been shifted. He turns and walks back into the mountain, his face set. If Sauron will make war on Eregion, he will find Khazad-dûm less yielding, he says to his captains. We will seal our doors. We will strengthen our halls. We will watch. In Lorien, Galadriel takes Nenya upon her hand. The ring of adamant is cold as starlight, its white stone clear as ice. As it settles upon her finger, she feels a rush of perception, a deepening of her already keen foresight. She feels, too, the web. She feels the one far away now, in Sauron's hand once more. She feels the shard of Celebrimbor within it, like a knot in a thread. She smiles, though there is sorrow in it. Well done, kinsman, she whispers. You have given us a foothold in the enemy's own fortress. She turns to her people. We will make this wood a place of refuge, she says. We will weave a veil of song and light around it. We will not challenge Sauron openly, not yet. We will endure. Time passes. Sauron consolidates his hold on Eregion. He razes Osten Edhill to its foundations, then builds over the ruins a new stronghold of black stone and iron. He fills its forges with enslaved smiths, some taken from among the surviving elves of the Myrdain, others from men and dwarves captured in his campaigns. He tortures Merwin and the others, seeking every secret of Celebrimbor's techniques. He learns much. The shard of the elf in the ring cannot prevent him from gaining knowledge. It can only twist, slow, and occasionally misdirect. Sauron's new works are strange hybrids of his own brutal efficiency and the elven subtlety he has unwillingly absorbed. He forges new rings. They are not like the 9 or the 7. Those were made before under Celebrimbor's guidance, then twisted by Sauron's hand. These are born in shadow from the first. They are cruder in some ways, more direct, less elegant. They burn out their bearers faster, but they are also more tightly bound to the one, their channels more aggressively forced open. He gives them to his most trusted lieutenants, to men whose hearts are already dark, to creatures of shadow dredged from forgotten pits. He does not dare attempt again the making of a ring like the 3. The shard of Celebrimbor in the one would see that coming. Instead, he takes what he has and builds. Eregion becomes more than a conquered province. It becomes an engine of war. The plains are scarred with trenches and slag heaps. Black towers rise where once there were green hills. The forges never cool. Smoke hangs perpetually over the land, a false cloud that dims the sun. Orcs march in drilled formations, their armor standardized, their weapons balanced. Trolls are fitted with harnesses that allow them to carry siege towers and great engines. Wolves are bred in pens and trained as mounts. In the deep vault beneath the new stronghold, Sauron experiments. He binds lesser spirits to metal and stone, creating constructs that move without will of their own, guided by the pulses of power from the One. He forges blades that drink light, armor that drinks sound, chains that drink hope. He extends his reach. From Eregion, his armies strike north into Eriador, burning small settlements. Testing the defenses of Lindon, they strike south toward the Gap of Rohan, probing the lands of men. They strike east, seeking to encircle Khazad-dûm. Gil-galad responds as he can. He sends forces to harry the flanks of Sauron's hosts. He fortifies the Lune and the towers of Lindon. He sends messages to Númenor, urging the great men of the sea to return and aid Middle-earth. The Númenóreans come in time. With tall ships and gleaming armor, they land upon the coasts, their standards bright against the darkening sky. They find a world already changed. The shadow that rises from Mordor now has a second source in Eregion, a twin plume of darkness that stains the west. The Númenórean captains stand upon the decks of their ships and look inland. What has befallen? One asks. Elendil, not yet exiled, not yet High King in the north, hears the tales of Celebrimbor's last stand and the forging of Sauron's new empire. He listens long into the night. An elf took the Dark Lord's own fire and set part of himself within it. He says at last, he did this to hinder his foe, to give us time. We must not waste that gift. He looks east, toward the smoke. We will go to war. In Imladris, newly founded in a hidden valley under the protection of Gil-galad and Elrond, refugees from Eregion gather. They build houses of stone and wood beside the loud river. They plant gardens. They sing songs of loss and of stubborn hope. Elrond walks among them, his face grave. He wears Vilya now, at Gil-galad's command, for the High King has chosen to wield no ring himself. He fears the temptation of power, the subtle pull of the one through the web. Elrond feels that pull every day. He feels, too, the presence of Celebrimbor's shard in the ring of power. Sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, when the stars are bright above the valley and the roar of the waterfalls is a steady song, he senses a faint whisper. Not words, impressions, a pattern half seen in the play of light on water, a suggestion of a new way to strengthen a foundation, to shape a ward, to hide a path. He takes these impressions and works them into the growing defenses of Imladris. The valley becomes a place where the eye slides past, where paths turn upon themselves, where sound and scent and sight are subtly misdirected. Sauron scouts pass within miles and do not see it. The balance Celebrimbor has forced into the ring's web is not static. It is a tension every time Sauron pushes, using the one to seek, to dominate, to corrupt. The shard of the elf pushes back, diverting a fraction of that power into works of preservation and concealment. Every time Elrond, Galadriel, or Círdan calls upon the three to heal, to shield, to strengthen, a faint echo runs back along the lines to the one, a reminder of what else could have been wrought with such fire. Sauron feels these echoes. They infuriate him. He redoubles his efforts to crush the West. The wars of the Second Age are fiercer in this timeline. Eregion is not merely a ruin to be contested. It is a fortress that must be taken or broken. The last alliance, when it comes, is not only a gathering of elves and men upon the slopes of Orodruin. It is also a siege of Eregion itself. Gil-galad, Elendil, Elrond, Isildur, Anarion, Círdan, Galadriel, and others stand upon a ridge overlooking the blackened plains where once green fields rolled. The stronghold of Sauron in Eregion looms before them, a jagged crown of iron towers and smoke-belching chimneys. Lightning plays constantly around its highest spires, drawn by the unnatural energies that thrum within. The heart of his new power, Gil-galad says. If we take this, we cut one of his hands. But the other still grips the world from Mordor. Elendel's face is set. Then we must strike both, he says. We cannot leave this engine of war at our backs while we march east. Galadriel closes her eyes. She reaches out with Nenya, feeling the currents of power that run through the land. She feels the one, now far away in Mordor, upon Sauron's hand as he prepares to meet the Alliance at Dagorlad. She feels, too, the resonances in Eregion, the echoes of Celebrimbor's work, the patterns he carved into stone and spell. He is not here, she says. His body, his primary will, is in Mordor, but his shadow lies thick upon this place. He has left lieutenants bound to him by lesser rings. If we take this stronghold, we weaken his supply of arms, his breeding pits, his engines. We also risk much. The foundations of this place are tied to the one. If it falls, the shock may change things. Elrond looks at her sharply. Change how? He asks. She opens her eyes. In ways we cannot predict, she says. The shard of Celebrimbor that dwells in the ring is entwined with the patterns of Eregion. If we break those patterns, we may free him further, or we may unmake what little balance he has forced upon Sauron's work. Gil-galad considers, do we dare leave this fortress standing? He asks softly, knowing what horrors are forged within, knowing what armies may yet pour forth if Sauron is not wholly overthrown. Elendil puts his hand upon the hilt of his sword. We dare not, he says. We must trust that whatever change comes will be to our advantage, or at least that we will be there to meet it. Elrond looks east, toward Mordor. He feels the weight of Vilya on his hand. He feels the distant, constant pressure of the One like a storm on the horizon. He also feels faintly a whisper, like the ring of a hammer on an anvil. He thinks of Celebrimbor, of the elves' last words to him, of the gift he has given at such cost. We fight here, he says, and we fight there. We are beyond the time for half measures. The siege of Eregion is a brutal, grinding affair. The stronghold's walls are thick, reinforced with spells that turn arrows aside and dull the edge of catapult stones. Its defenders are not only orcs and trolls, but twisted constructs of iron and bone that do not tire, do not fear, do not bleed. The Alliance brings siege towers, battering rams, engines of Númenórean make that hurl great stones with terrifying force. They bring elven archers whose arrows find the smallest gaps in armor. They bring songs of unmaking that crack the mortar in the walls. Days stretch into weeks. The plains become a mire of blood and broken wood. At night, the sky over the stronghold glows with an unhealthy light, as if some great furnace burns within. Elrond, in his tent, feels the constant thrum of power from Eregion, like a second heartbeat under his own. He also feels the distant clash at Mordor, where Gil-galad and Elendil have led the main host. News comes slowly. First, that Sauron's armies have been broken upon the plain of Dagorlad. Then, that the siege of Barad-dûr has begun. Then, that the siege drags on year after weary year. The war is two-headed. In Eregion, the Alliance chips away at Sauron's shadow empire. In Mordor, they gnaw at the roots of his first fortress. Time works strangely in the presence of great power. Seasons blur, men age and die. Elves endure. At last, a breach is made in the walls of Eregion's stronghold. A section of the black stone, weakened by repeated assault and by subtle workings of the three, collapses inward, opening a jagged wound. The Alliance surges in. Elrond leads one of the first companies through the breach. The air inside is thick and hot, tasting of metal and old blood. The corridors are narrow, designed to channel attackers into killing zones. The walls are lined with pipes that carry steam and smoke. Strange lights flicker, unsteady and colorless. They fight, room by room. Orcs fall, constructs shatter, elves die, men die. In the depths, Elrond feels a pull, a sense of direction. Vilya hums on his hand. He follows. The path leads down, always down, into the oldest parts of the fortress, where the walls are not the black iron of Sauron's new work, but the fused stone of the collapsed tower of the House of the Mirdan. He recognizes the feel of it. He remembers the tales. He remembers Morwen's description of the chamber where Celebrimbor fell. He reaches a door. It is not wood or metal. It is a seamless plane of stone, veined with gold and silver, cool to the touch despite the heat around it. He lays his hand upon it. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the veins of metal glow, tracing out a pattern that looks to his practiced eye like a ring's inscription, only flattened and expanded. A voice whispers in his mind, Elrond. He stiffens. Lord Celebrimbor, he thinks. Yes, the voice says. It is faint, thinned by time and strain, but it is unmistakably the elf he knew, or what is left of me. You have come to the heart of my last work. Elrond's throat tightens. We have come to free you, he says. Celebrimbor laughs, a dry, brittle sound. You cannot free me, he says. I am bound to the one now. To unmake that bond would be to unmake the ring itself. And that, his voice trails off. Elrond feels a flicker of something else, a shadow of Sauron's attention, as if the Dark Lord far away in Mordor has felt this contact. Time is short, Celebrimbor says more urgently. You must listen. This place, this fortress, is tied to the lattice I wove into the one. It is a nexus, a knot. If you destroy it utterly, you will loosen that knot. The balance I forced will change. Sauron will be freer to pour his will through the ring, but you will also weaken him, for he has invested much of his power here, in his works, in his engines, in his bound spirits. If you leave it standing, he will have a constant source of strength, a factory of war that will outlast this age. Elrond closes his eyes. He sees, in his mind's eye, two futures. In one, Eregion's stronghold stands, a black heart, pumping armies into the veins of Middle-earth, even if Barad-dûr falls. In the other, it is a smoking crater, its secrets buried, its power dispersed. But Sauron's ring burns hotter, less constrained, more dangerous. He thinks of Gil-galad and Elendil at the foot of Orodruin. He does not yet know how that battle will end. He thinks of Isildur, proud and wounded, of men's hearts and the temptations they face. He thinks of the three, of the havens they have built, of the fragile safety they provide. Is there a way, he asks softly, to break this place without breaking your work entirely? To rebind the knot in a different pattern? Celebrimbor is silent for a moment. There might be, he says at last, but it would require a sacrifice. Elrond's hand tightens on the hilt of his sword. Whose? He asks, though he suspects. Mine. Celebrimbor says simply, the shard of me that dwells in the one is anchored here, in these stones, in the patterns I carved. If you unmake this place in a certain way, you can sever that anchor. I will be less, a memory only, a faint echo. The ring will be wholly Sauron's again. The balance will be lost. But the structures I have imposed upon his work, the flaws I have built in, will remain. He will be stronger in raw will, but his designs will forever bear my mark. Elrond swallows. If we do nothing, he asks, then I continue as I have, Celebrimbor says. A shard, resisting, twisting, slowing. He will never have full freedom, but he will have this fortress. He will have his engines, He will have time to adapt to my interference, to learn to work around it. He is cunning. He will find ways. Elrond opens his eyes. The door before him pulses faintly. Behind him, his companions shift, uneasy. "What must I do?" he asks. Celebrimbor's presence brightens. "There is a pattern in the stone," he says. "You see it already. You must sing it backward. You must use Vilya to unweave what I have woven. It will hurt. It may kill you. It will certainly draw his eye. But if you succeed, this place will collapse in upon itself, not as it did before, but more completely. The power bound here will be released in a form he cannot easily use. It will scatter." Elrond takes a deep breath. He thinks of Imladris, of the people who have come to depend upon him. He thinks of Gil-galad, who entrusted him with Vilya. He thinks of Celebrimbor, who gave them all this chance. He thinks of Isildur, whom he has known since youth, whose pride he has watched with growing unease. "Will this help them?" he asks, meaning Gil-galad and Elendil, though he does not name them. "Yes," Celebrimbor says. "If they can take the ring, they will find it more vulnerable in that moment. The shock of this unmaking will echo along the web. It will jar Sauron. It may give them the opening they need." Elrond nods. "Then I will do it," he says. He turns to his companions. "Fall back," he says. "Get as many of our people as you can out of this fortress. When you feel the ground shake, run." They hesitate. "Lord Elrond," one begins. "That is an order," Elrond says, more sharply than he intends. "Go." They obey. He is left alone before the door. He lays his hand upon the pattern again. He closes his eyes. He begins to sing. The song is not in any tongue of elves or men. It is a pattern of sounds that match the curves and lines of the inscription in the stone, a mirror of the forging songs Celebrimbor once used, twisted now into unmaking. Vilya flares. Power pours through Elrond. It is like standing in a river in flood, like holding a lightning bolt in his bare hand. He feels the structure of the fortress around him, the ribs of stone, the veins of metal, the nodes of bound spirits. He feels the line that runs from this place to the one, to Sauron's hand far away. He feels, too, the shard of Celebrimbor, bright and taut. He pulls. The door shatters. Light floods the corridor. The ground heaves above. Towers crack, walls buckle, engines explode, orcs scream, constructs freeze, then topple. The sky over Eregion flares white, then black. In Mordor, upon the slopes of Orodruin, Sauron reels. He has just come forth to face Gil-galad and Elendil. The last alliance stands before him, grim and resolute. He raises his mace. He feels suddenly a wrench in his hand, as if the bones of his fingers have been broken. The one ring flares, then dims, then flares again, its light flickering like a candle in a gust of wind. He staggers. Gil-galad seizes the moment. His spear Aeglos flashes. Elendil's sword Narsil arcs. The clash that follows is terrible. Sauron, even wounded, is a storm of darkness and flame. He slays Gil-galad. He slays Elendil. Narsil shatters. Isildur, weeping, snatches up the broken hilt. He sees the ring upon Sauron's hand, its light now a strange mix of gold and faint blue, flickering as if something within it is tearing itself apart. He acts. He cuts the ring from Sauron's hand. The Dark Lord's form explodes into shadow and fire. A great cry goes up. The ring falls. In the instant before Isildur's hand closes around it, a shock runs along the web. In Eregion, the fortress collapses entirely. Elrond is thrown to the ground. He feels the last bright flare of Celebrimbor's shard as it severs its anchor. He hears, faintly, a voice. Now, then silence. The power that has been bound in Eregion, in its forges, in its engines, in its twisted constructs, is released. It does not flow back neatly to Sauron. It has been too long shaped by Celebrimbor's hand. It scatters. Some of it seeps into the land, healing slowly the scars of war, making the grasses grow thicker, the streams run clearer. Some of it drifts into the air, a faint golden haze that lingers for years, making the sunsets over the ruins of Eregion strangely beautiful. Some of it finds its way in subtle currents to the three Vilya, Nenya, and Narya, flare upon their bearers' hands. They feel a sudden deepening of their power, a new resonance that is not Sauron's, not entirely Celebrimbor's, but something born of their clash. In Mordor, Isildur holds the ring. It is heavy. It is warm. It whispers. In this timeline, the whisper is different. It is not only Sauron's voice that speaks to him, it is also, faintly, another, destroy it. That second voice says, end this. Do not let his work endure. Isildur hesitates. He stands upon the black slopes, the heat of Orodruin washing over him. Elrond is there, and Círdan, their faces lined with grief and hope. Cast it into the fire, Elrond says. Destroy it. Isildur looks at the ring. He sees in its surface not only his own face, thin and weary, but a flicker of others. Sauron's terrible and proud, Celebrimbor's bright and determined. He hears Sauron's whisper. Take it, it says. It is a just compensation. Your father and brother are dead. Your line is broken. This will give you the strength to rebuild, to rule, to make an age of men that will never fall. He hears Celebrimbor's echo. Destroy it, it says again. I have given all I am to weaken this work. Do not let it stand. Isildur's hand trembles. He thinks of his father, of Númenor drowned, of the long years of exile, of the weight of leadership. He thinks of the temptation of power. He thinks of the dangers of leaving such a weapon in the world. He thinks, too, of the greatness men might achieve if they had the strength to shape their own destiny, unthreatened by the whims of elves and Valar. He closes his fist around the ring. No, he says. Elrond's shoulders sag. Círdan's eyes close. Isildur does not justify himself at length. He is too tired for speeches. It is mine, he says simply, by right of conquest. I will not destroy it. He turns away from the fire. The ring's light dims, then steadies. The shard of Celebrimbor within it, now unanchored, now only a faint echo, stirs. It cannot force Isildur's hand. It can only watch. Years pass. Isildur dies in the gladdened fields. The ring is lost. It falls into the river, into the mud, into the slow, patient dark. In this, the timeline does not diverge. What does diverge is the world into which it will one day return. Eregion is a wasteland. Its once bright forges are buried under layers of ash and collapsed stone. Its roads are broken, its fields overgrown with coarse grasses and thorn. Yet there is a strange beauty to it. The power that scattered at the fortress's fall has left a residue. The air over the ruin shimmers faintly at dawn and dusk, as if with heat, though the wind is cold. The stones hum softly when struck. Plants grow in odd patterns, their leaves glossy, their flowers unusually bright. Travelers who pass near speak of strange dreams. They dream of forges, of hammers ringing, of patterns of light and metal. They dream of a voice, calm and precise, explaining the way that power can be shaped, the way that form can be made to serve function. Some wake with new ideas, with sudden insights into their crafts. A potter from Tharbad begins to make glazes of unprecedented depth and color. A blacksmith in Bree invents a new kind of hinge that will, in time, be used in many doors. A young dwarf, wandering far from home, dreams of a gate of silver and at Hilden that glows with starlight. The shadow of Celebrimbor's mind lingers in the world. In Lorien, Galadriel walks among the golden Malorn trees. Nenya glitters on her hand. She feels the increased strength in her ring, the way it allows her to hold back decay, to preserve the beauty of the wood. She also feels, faintly, the absence where Celebrimbor's shard once pressed more strongly against Sauron's will. The balance is different now. The one lies sleeping in the mud of the Gladden. Its maker is a bodiless shadow in the east. The three are brighter, freer, more potent. The havens they support are stronger. Yet the flaw Celebrimbor carved into the one structure remains. When, at last, the ring is found by Gollum, and later by Bilbo, and later still by Frodo, it is not quite the same ring that was forged in Eredruin. It is more complex. It still tempts. It still corrupts. It still seeks to return to its master, but it also carries within it the faintest echo of another will, of another purpose. When Frodo puts it on in Bag End, he feels the chill, the sudden shift in perception, the weight of Sauron's malice. He also feels for an instant a sense of craft, of pattern, of form. He sees the world as lines and nodes, as structures that can be changed. He is too inexperienced to understand what he is seeing. He takes it off, shaking. Later, in Rivendell, when the council debates what to do with the ring, Elrond sits in silence for a long time. He has felt the ring's presence again, more strongly than ever. He has felt, faintly, the echo of Celebrimbor's shard stir. He knows now that the choice they face is shaped by that long-ago decision in Eregion. They can destroy the ring if they can get it to Eredruin. The flaw Celebrimbor carved, the cage within the cage, makes it more vulnerable to unmaking than it might otherwise have been. But if they fail, if Sauron regains it, he will have a weapon that, though flawed, is still terrible, and he will face a world where the havens of the West are stronger, more deeply rooted, more dependent upon the three. The stakes are higher. The Shire, in this timeline, is not quite as untouched as in the original. Eregion's shadow empire, though long fallen, left traces in trade routes, in the spread of certain crafts, in the memories of men. There are old tales in Bree of the burning plains to the east, of the smoke that never lifted. Hobbits, curious by nature, have heard some of these. They tell them as ghost stories by the fire. Frodo has heard them. He has dreamed once or twice of a tall elf on a balcony, holding a ring that burns his hand. He does not know that the elf is Celebrimbor. He will, perhaps, never know. Yet when he stands upon the brink of the crack of doom, the ring heavy on his hand, Sauron's eye blazing in his mind, the echo of Celebrimbor's shard stirs more strongly than ever. It remembers this place. It remembers the heat, the fire, the forge. It remembers the choice that was not made, the destruction that was not wrought. It whispers, "End it." Frodo's will buckles. He claims the ring. In this, too, the timeline does not diverge. Gollum bites off his finger. He falls. The ring goes into the fire. In the heart of Eredruin, gold melts. Inscriptions flare. Essences scream. Sauron's, immense and ancient, writhes. Celebrimbor's, faint and thread-like, brightens for a moment. Then both are drawn out, stretched, thinned, and snapped. The ring collapses. The lattice of power it anchored shudders. The web that ran through Middle-earth, linking the one to the three, to Eregion, to the deep places of the world, vibrates like a plucked string. The three flare on the hands of Elrond, Galadriel, and Gandalf. They feel their power fading, their long work of preservation coming to an end. They also feel, faintly, a sense of release. The lands that were bound to Sauron's will are freed. The scars of Eregion, long held in a strange stasis by the residue of power, begin to heal more naturally. Grasses grow where slag heaps lay. Trees root in cracked stone. The golden haze over the ruins dissipates. In the deep, fused heart of the old fortress, in the chamber where Celebrimbor once lay, a last tiny spark flickers. There is no ring now to hold it. There is no lattice to give it shape. It is only a memory. It sees, in a flash, the whole arc of its existence, the joy of forging, the pride of making the three, the horror of betrayal, the desperate choice to take the one, the long struggle within it, the final sacrifice in Eregion, the echoes through ages, the boy from the Shire on the brink of the fire. It feels no regret. It has done what it could. It fades. On the surface, under a sky clearing after long darkness, a group of travelers passes near the old ruins of Eregion. Among them is a dwarf with a keen eye for stone, a man with a new crown, an elf with a fading ring, and a hobbit with a missing finger. They do not linger. The land is quiet. Only the wind moves, stirring the grass, sighing through the broken walls. For a moment, as they pass, the sunlight catches on a shard of fused glass in the rubble. It glitters, a tiny, perfect circle of light. Then a cloud passes over the sun and the light goes out.